Volkanovski, the champ, he's coming off of a head kick KO loss to Islam Makhachev. Took the fight on short notice for the lightweight title. What are your feelings about Volkanovski right now going into this fight? Because there's some murmuring from the fan base of worry for Volk. Do you have that level of worry for him?
I certainly do. Yeah, my opening question to you is going to be, how valid are those concerns? Very valid, I think, has to be the answer. It's a career-defining head kick knockout loss. But perhaps what I found more concerning, Joe, and I don't know how you felt about this, is some of the other things that Volkanovski has been talking about in regards to his general well-being going into that fight. Now, we have been led to believe that Volkanovski is the most dedicated, most disciplined fighter on the roster, and that is why he's so good. But he conceded that he was particularly unhappy, not about taking the fight, not even about how the fight ended, but his condition going in. Too heavy, beers every day, that Australian barbecue lifestyle, that's what he resents. And that shocked me, Joe, because I did not know he was drinking beer or weighing too much. I thought he was the picture-perfect athlete.
Listen, man, you can do all you want, but you cannot take the Australian out of a sportsman. He's going to be getting on the beers at some stage. I remember leading up to it that he did talk about like he was drinking before that, but not to the degree that he then disclosed later. Obviously, if he did do that, I mean, Jesus, that would have messed up so many things for so many people, like the betting lines and whatever else. You know, it would have really potentially skewed things quite badly.
It's taken for granted. We know he's Australian, but just like his aura is one of just stoicism, you know, discipline, like go above and beyond, embrace the grind, and that kind of surprised me. I appreciate him coming clean about it, but boy, he must have some regrets.
Yeah, probably does. He probably does. I mean, it has ruined his chances of getting another shot at the lightweight title, at least for the near future. I mean, I am predicting he's not going to be long for the featherweight division, personally. I think he will be moving up sooner rather than later. And yeah, I think that maybe he thought that could be his only opportunity. The other thing that came out was that interview with Eugene Behrman, where he said that they offered him that fight and he actually renegotiated his contract with that so that he got bigger paydays. And it's like, okay, Volk saw the opportunity, which is, yeah, I can go for glory, but I can also set up my life post-fighting, quite comfortably, which is a bit worrying, by the way, that he wasn't already set up. Do you know what I mean? For a fighter that good who's had that many title fights.
True. A win-win until you get kicked in the head in front of your friends, family, and most of the sporting world. That's it's a brutal way to go, and coming back against this man, Ilia Topuria, that is not easing the champ back into his horse. That is quite the matchup, because, Joe, can we talk about Ilia Topuria now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Topuria, this man's a beast, 14-0, and he's been a wrecking ball through the UFC. He has overcome some adversity in some of his fights. I mean, I'm looking at that
head kick of his own
against
Jai Herbert.
Yeah, against Jai Herbert. Upper division at lightweight, ate it, well, on his ass, but he continued to fight on from there, wrestled Herbert down, and then proceeded to cut him in half with a beautiful head combo. But since then, he's had he had that one over Ryan Hall. Remember that weird performance from Ryan Hall where he was just doing Imanari rolls and Topuria would just literally step back
He solved the problem, Joe. He solved the Ryan Hall problem. Pin him down and pound him unconscious. Try and roll now, son.
Yeah, when you put it like that, it's kind of like, why were people so confused by this guy? Like, this doesn't seem that difficult at all. Like, of course this is what you should be doing against Ryan Hall. But yeah, it just completely mashed him into the ground after that. And then the Bryce Mitchell fight, where, everyone was like, oh, Bryce, that could be potential title contender, two young guys going at it. And it was an absolute mauling, to the point where Bryce Mitchell was thinking about retirement afterwards. And then in his last fight, a unanimous win over Josh Emmett, which included a 10-7 round in there in the scoring. He whooped him badly, and that was
could have stopped.
Yeah, probably should have been stopped after the 4th round by Emmett's corner, but Topuria has been seriously impressive so far. Tom, what is the standout performance for you for Topuria in this recent run?
Ooh, I mean, he's amassed quite the highlight reel. It's hard to pick one. Of course, the 2 most recent fights are the most significant in terms of the rankings and the manner of the victories. I mean, I think it's Josh Emmett, isn't it? Is it Bryce for you?
Yeah, I'd say Bryce. I just think that how he just manhandled him on the ground as well. Like there's that moment where he pancaked him, where he put his like Emmett's trying to get up and he puts his hand on his chest and just pushes him to the ground, and it's
down, boy.
Yeah, literally.
Where do you think you're going?
Yeah. Know your role and shut your mouth is what he just said to him. He whooped him badly, but it's very impressive. Should we talk about what Topuria does well? Because Volkanovski, there's so much tape on him. We know how he builds his striking game. It's the calf kick, it's the jab, it's the hook off the lead hand. He builds and creates this sort of like spider web tapestry to sort of ensnare you into his game. Topuria, it sounds a little bit more meat and potatoes, but he's more I'm going to blast through you sort of style. It's not the case that there's no finesse, but it's like it's not done subtly, let's just say. It's a lot more.
He's a brute.
Yes, yeah, a brute in the truest sense.
But as you say, Joe, that doesn't do him justice, because his boxing work and where he's able to do it is kind of what sets him apart. Something I observed coming into this fight is when you look at the tape, and of course there's a lot of building library out there of Topuria and his performances. He's ready to sit in the pocket, slip and rip, step off to off the center line, brutal uppercuts and hooks to the body, and he is ready to stand in that pocket with you and trade. He's coming forwards, and man, nobody's been able to deal with that. You can kick the man in the head, he can take it. So how do you get him off you? And that's the big problem for Volk. I think Topuria, as he has been in his previous fights, will be on the front foot again in this one. Yeah,
sure. I agree. I think some people have gone back to that Emmett fight and gone on how impressive he is. The issue is that he hasn't really fought a guy who's got that sort of output that Volkanovski does, of like throwing as many different things at you at different speeds and rhythms and trying to catch you off guard and trying to get you working and twitching and whatnot. And there was an interesting thing that I got from rewatching I rewatched his last 3, and when I rewatched the Mitchell fight, there was something that bothered me for Topuria. Did you rewatch the Bryce Mitchell fight?
I didn't get to the tape, no.
He really overreacted to Mitchell's jab. Like he was twitching massively on it, and even when he feinted it, and he massively overreacted, and he does it with these leans. Like he leans away quite a lot. And also, when you rewatch the Herbert fight and the Emmett fight, in the middle of exchanges, when let's say you throw your left hand as a straight, you want to bring your right hand up to sort of protect your head, like it's kind of like a piston motion that you want to be doing. In the middle of those exchanges, he'll sort of drop his right hand, just not even that he's loading up a shot like an uppercut or anything. It just drops. He'll drop his right hand. And it's these little things that I saw where I'm like, Volkanovski's going to have picked up on that. 100% he would have picked up on that. It's just that the level of like artillery that's going to be coming from Topuria, I wonder if... Has Volkanovski ever fought a puncher of that power? Like maybe Chad Mendes?
Yes, Chad Mendes. I think... Now, that sounds like a disservice to Topuria, but Chad Mendes... with a bit of help from the laboratory, can be quite the deadly weapon, and will also sit in the pocket and look to trade with you. And yeah, Volkanovski did have to come through some adversity in that fight. Interesting, like thinking about Volkanovski at that time.
Yeah.
I was a little bit dismissive of him because I thought he was this just bull-rushing young buck with an iron chin, much
Yes.
like I look at Topuria now, just waiting to get schooled by the older masters who have that finesse to, clip you with a check hook when you overextend, or to be able to maneuver in a way where you can't step off to the side, where you can't work your usual offense. You're sat in the pocket where you want to trade, but you just get lit up instead of getting your own shots off. And of course, Volkanovski with his reach, something which is being picked up on now, but for such a small man, just 5'6", he's got a 71.5-inch reach. That's 6 feet in reach.
It's pretty substantial.
Pretty substantial in this weight class, and he might just be able to do that, be able to hurt Topuria when he's in that space in the pocket. However, Volkanovski, of course, matured past that point and has gone on to become, one of the all-time greats at featherweight. Will Topuria do the same?
What do you mean elevate? You mean step up to the level?
We're looking at a man here, Joe. He's 27 years of age. He's the full package from what we've seen. Wrestling, grappling, black belt in jiu-jitsu.
The ground and pound.
This could be the breakout for Ilia. And it's a really, really tough one to call. Odds makers out there, Joe, they've got it split.
It is a split.
More or less. Slight lean to Volkanovski because of his pedigree, but very, very close in the odds matchmaking.
I agree. This is the fight I'm kind of most excited for over the next couple months. We've talked about UFC 298, 99, 300 being these super stacked cards, but if I don't get this fight, I will be massively disappointed. This is the fight for me in the whole of the UFC, and actually kind of in the whole of combat sports that I'm most interested in, even more than Usyk Fury. Like, this is massive for me because... honestly, we're looking at a guy who, I've said it before on the podcast, there is a part of me that thinks that Volkanovski is the best fighter I've ever seen. Like, he might be the best fighter I've ever seen. Just because, like, not even, let's ignore, like, records or whatever. Just what he does in there is incredible to me. How he can bamboozle guys who are all-time greats. Like, you said that you talked about that Mendes fight, where we talked about like, oh, he's this kind of like bull-rushing guy. And if you actually remember before that, he was like a wrestler. Like, he'd wrestle guys down and just beat them up on the ground. And then that Jose Aldo fight happened, where he absolutely schooled him. He schooled the master. He schooled the best featherweight to ever do it. And Aldo, by the end of it, was like, God, get me out of here. Like, I can't do anything to this guy. And then he beats Max Holloway 3 times. Twice comprehensively. The third time, it wasn't even a contest. Like, it was a true arse whooping where Volkanovski wasn't even like massively fainting. He just beat him up. The Brian Ortega fight where he overcame adversity, beat the hell out of him. Zombie, who, Zombie was past his best. We can admit that. But in some of his fights in the last few years, he caused people problems who were really good fighters. That Yair fight, he was 5 seconds away from winning. And Volk made him look like a complete jabroni. Like, he wasn't of the level. And now we've got the perfect one for Volkanovski, which is, you got this young guy who's going to take your spot? Nah. I'm the champ for a reason. That is the narrative from the Volk side. From the Topuria side, it's, you got this young, cocky, knockout artist, smash you down, destroy you in every aspect of the game. He can be a star in the Spanish-speaking world. This is perfect for the UFC. He's a young guy. He can take on all the contenders. Can he prove he's of the level? Because realistically, he's not fought anyone of the level. He hasn't faced the Max Holloway gatekeeper. He hasn't even fought Evloev. He hasn't fought, Arnold Allen, Yair Rodriguez. He hasn't fought any of those guys. They've kind of kept him away from that. So I think that with this is that, yeah, we can look at the past performances of these guys, but Topuria's never fought a guy who's ranked top 5, really, has he? I mean, when he fought Emmett, was Emmett 5th or 6th at that time?
Emmett's coming into that fight off another beating he'd received
from Yair.
By Yair.
Yeah. It wasn't like, he's never fought a guy who's in those higher echelons. So for me, with Topuria, my worry for him is that it's kind of all hypothetical. Do you know? And I worry for him as well.
Joe.
Yeah, go on.
Well, when you put it in those terms, yeah, that does check, the steam train a little bit, because I'm getting carried away. Let me tell you, I'm getting carried away with Ilia Topuria. I'm listening to you talk to me about the performance against Brian Ortega, Chan Sung-jung, Yair Rodriguez, and I'm thinking these guys, these are not Topuria. And I think he's a different kind of test, but really, when you look at the paper that's out there, the tape, I'm highlighting his performance over Jai Herbert. That was just a year and a half ago. He's fighting Jai Herbert, and getting dropped by him.
Yeah.
So one might say it's premature. One might say that.
I don't know, man. But he got dropped by Jai Herbert, yeah. But then he won every other second of that fight, pretty much. Bryce Mitchell, it wasn't even close. Ryan Hall won, it wasn't close. The Damon Jackson one, it wasn't close. Sure, he's a young guy.
These are first round knockouts.
Yeah, but this is a young guy who's not really had these opportunities given to him yet. And Volk had seen this guy coming up. He had said, "Please don't book him against Max. I want to face this guy." He had made that request, and he's probably earned that right to say to the UFC, "Please don't."
Certainly has.
Yeah. I want this contender. Another issue, by the way, I've thought of for Topuria is that he mostly stands at orthodox as well, and Volk, as we saw from the Makachev fight, as we saw briefly in the Yair fight, the issue for him would be head kicks from southpaws, something that Topuria doesn't have. And another issue I have for Topuria is he massively overswings at times. Remember that Bryce Mitchell fight? He was almost he was swinging so hard at him because I think he knew Bryce couldn't hang, so he was just, I'm just going to get him out of there. I will say, though, in terms of what he can offer, is that he's got a really strong wrestling base. That's something that Volkanovski's not faced in quite a long time. Probably since Chad Mendes.
Or Makachev.
Oh, shit, yeah, hold on. At featherweight, he's not faced anyone with that wrestling base at featherweight. I'll take that back.
Yeah.
But,
yes. No, I'm with you. I mean, that brings us on to our kind of last question here before we lay out our predictions. This fight, we anticipate seeing Topuria on the front foot. All right, we anticipate him growing in confidence, starting confident, going in hot, and we've seen him eat shots. So we don't really see Volk, putting him away. We see Volk landing some jabs, establishing his game, kind of upsetting Topuria. How does the fight develop from that point? How do you see Volk dealing with the Topuria pressure? Do you see him looking towards the clinch game? Do you see him kicking, taking out Topuria's legs? What do you think the answer is?
I think he will engage in the clinch game.
I think he'll have to.
Yeah, early in the fight, I think he will, and that will be a really interesting battle to see who will have the advantage there. Obviously, Volk got into the clinch game with Makachev in the first fight. I kind of feel like the second Makachev fight's not really worth really going into. There was a brief moment where they got into a clinch and Volk spun him and got into the cage. But Makachev's kind of always kind of happy to do that in a way because he can get into trips from there. But that first one, he got into some awkward positions, and because Makachev's size, he was able to hold the back. I would be surprised if Topuria could do that against him, considering he doesn't have the size advantage over Volk.
Yeah.
And in the clinch game, it will be the breaks. The breaks. Who will get off first on the break? Who will have the advantageous position of tying up the other guy's two arms and you having your one arm free, and then you can wait and then load up and throw from the break. That will be interesting to see. I would favour Volk in there. If I'm Topuria, I'm going to use the clinches to get to takedowns. That would be my main point of attack.
Who is stronger of the two? Talking about pure physical strength.
Oh, man. I mean, in terms of pure physical strength, I'd say that Topuria's had the more amazing moments of pure physical strength. Again, the pancaking of Mitchell is the one I go back to, but I would be surprised if it wasn't Volk. Volk must surely be the stronger of the two, having fought up at lightweight, having handled Makachev at points in the clinch. I don't know. I think maybe early on Volk might have it, but Topuria, I do worry about his overthrowing as well. So maybe expending that much energy into strikes that miss could be a huge forfeit.
Didn't seem to matter against Josh Emmett, Joe.
Yeah, but Josh Emmett doesn't have the output of Volkanovski.
No, but he has cannons, and he landed. He landed on Topuria. He landed.
That's true. That's
hit
true.
me, Joe. I got to hear it.
You're asking for my pick?
I am.
Volkanovski decision. I have to give it to the champ. Volkanovski decision.
Yeah, anything else would be blasphemy.
Oh, really?
And go against our body, the content we put out there on Volkanovski.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just gone through the essential prep work of watching his walkout in Australia last time out, which is a biblical religious experience for me. That's why it's made it very hard for me to pick Topuria. But I have done it, and I've picked him to win by knockout.
You picked Topuria by knockout?
I've picked Topuria by knockout, yeah.
Wow, Tom!
I'm sorry. I know. It's been hard to commit that to paper. I'm kind of doing away with everything I've seen. I just feel like this is a really bad one for Volkanovski. I could be wrong. It could be that Topuria isn't that man. You know, we haven't seen it, but what I've seen, it's got to me. I'm scared for Volkanovski.
Wow. So, well, hold on. When did that click into place for you? What did you see in the Topuria?
I haven't liked the matchup for Volkanovski since it was announced.
Right, because of the Makhachev loss?
Yeah, exactly. Before that, if he fights before that, you know, it's kind of like when Usman got knocked out by Leon, and you said, "Well, this is everything's changed now." And of course, you were right. You know, we saw that conclusively in their matchup, and obviously Usman now is cut adrift in the open sea.
Yeah,
still a great fighter.
He's a fantastic fighter. Yeah,
and it's a huge problem. But you know, you pick like a real surging up and comer. You worry for Usman, and I think that's just it. With that loss and the manner of that loss to Makhachev, you were saying it's a perfect matchup because Volk really has to take it seriously. I kind of go the other way, where it's like I just think about these guys in the pocket. I think Volk leaning on what he's relied upon in the past could get him into big trouble here. I think Topuria will go after him. He won't be able to settle into the fight, Volkanovski, and I think he's going to really hurt him.
Wow. Do you think that the amount of tape study that there is available for Volkanovski is another issue? Like, there's so much footage of him. There's so much footage.
Yes, not that I think that's going to change anything about Topuria's approach. It's more Volk's tools. They are, you know, like you said, when he's fighting off beat, off rhythm, he's picking, he's poking, and he's kind of setting up different offenses, right? Changing his timing, changing his angle of attack, his movement, everything. He's switching stances. I just feel like because Topuria can go into that space with him, because he can fight from the inside, and he can take shots to get there.
Yeah,
I just think it's the worst kind of challenge when your chin has failed you. You know.
But then also his preparation failed him as well. You know, I'm not expecting that Volkanovski to be unprepared now for this fight. Also, this is something that you're talking about, that inside fighting. You know, Topuria's hooks to the body are going to be appalling to experience for Volk as well. So I'm wondering if they'll attack his stamina levels as well by going to the body. We also haven't talked about this. I know people talk about that 35 curse. You know, where only
it's real.
It is. It's a thing. I mean, the only example of someone who's won in a title fight over the age of 35, 170 and down on the men's side is Tyron Woodley. If you remove welterweight, it's nobody. Like, nobody's done it. So,
and that sums up how stark these terms are for Volkanovski coming in. And I want to also say that because I want to give the true credit to him if he is able to come through this, because it's a huge challenge.